we want to be healthy, then we'll have to think about what are the sources of your physical nourishment. Sources of food? Yeah. Okay, pretty simple. Your physical nourishment comes from this, okay? Food, air, water, and sunlight. And we'll have to look into this then, okay? And now, the point is, you can only be as healthy as the air, water, and food you consume. You can only be as healthy as the nourishment you receive. Okay. Now let's look at the food. My question is, do you go to the forest to water the plants? Nope. To do gordy hoeing? Nope. Plowing? Nope. Chemicals? Nope. No Roundup there either, spray anything. Nope, nothing of the sort. Now, how come they don't need any of these and your plants do? Yeah, you hit the nail, okay? Which will bring me to the next one. Exactly this point, okay? I am asking how come they're able to not only thrive and be healthy, but feed the whole of the creation, and cultivated man is unable to feed even his own species. And she hits the nail because those plants are stronger. They don't need our support. They can live, thrive, and be healthy without our support. And if that is the case, then that is my first point. Now, let's find out, okay, what is happening there in their world and what is happening in our world. A few goings and coming backs, okay, into that system and this system. So, physical nourishment of plants comes from sunlight, water, air, and the soil. That's about it, okay? So when we are looking at the soil, we are investigating. The question comes, is soil alive or dead? Alive, yeah. And what makes it alive? Sorry? Microorganisms.
Soil requires the presence of the living organisms in your soil. You must have bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, microarthropods, mycorrhizal fungi, all those cute little creepy crawlies in the soil. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to grow those plants.
Living beings make things alive, okay? So living beings make soil alive. And in this case, we can say microorganisms, which is just the basis, okay? It's just not the microorganisms. We are building from the microorganisms, and then other forms of life to macro. Everything in that cycle is making the soil alive, okay? So what does the life and health of soil depend on? Let's see. Diverse forms of life, micro and macro, living on that particular land base. That will keep the soil alive and healthy. Now, diverse forms of plants uptake and process different minerals. through microorganisms. There's an exchange happening here. It's a collective effort, okay? There's a collaborative effort going on there. In the whole of the nature, you'll find that. And there's an exchange, okay? The plants are feeding the microorganisms through sugars, and in return, whatever we call return or out of their joy of life, those microorganisms are converting those minerals and feeding the plants, okay? If the soil is healthy, then the plants and animals are healthy. And when healthy plants and animals fall back, the soil becomes healthy, okay? And there's no other shortcut about it. They get everything from the soil, the nature, the cosmos, all the energies. They grow, mature, and they go back and replenish and give all those energies back to the soil. If life is abundant, rich and diverse in a land base, microorganisms will be abundant and rich and diverse. It's not just a question of one or two bacteria which PAU keeps on supplying to the farmers, okay? This is for your root growth, this is for this or that, okay? Only and only if they are diverse, okay, the soil can be alive and healthy. Conversely, if the land base is poor, barren, sterile, and damaged, soil will be proportionately alive or dead. Now, something pretty significant here. Every plant is a specific set of nutrients. Okay, so I would like to elaborate a little bit this, okay? So every plant is a set of particular nutrients, okay, and comes up at a certain point, at a certain place, because it's needed there. To our eyes, it's just a weed, because from our selfish interests, mostly commercial market interests, that plant is not really profitable. To us, it's a weed, but when you shift the perspective from here to the land base, from the perspective of the land base, that plant is extremely important. It's coming up for a purpose, for an objective. A few examples, very simple, okay? If the soil is loose, you'll get grasses which will be able to hold the soil. If the soil lacks nutrition, the plants will come which will have a deeper taproot to bring the nutrients up there. If a forest is burnt down, a particular set of plants, weeds in our eyes, will come up that will replenish what has been lost in the process. It's not as simple as that, okay, this is not a tomato, this is not a lettuce, therefore it's not good for me, it's of no use. No. They're coming for a certain purpose, and when they go back to land, for example, in the case of the forest fire, that's the only chance for that soil to replenish itself. And it's not a case of some nutrients, okay, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium you put and you get your tomatoes from it. You cannot really even fathom what nutrients, micronutrients, what we call, are needed by living beings. And then you cannot really say, okay, I can pop some supplements and I can be healthy. It's not a possibility. So, soil gives life to plants and animals, correct? And plants and animals give life to soil. This is simple, Okay? Now, take away all the plants and animals from a land base. This is scenario 1. Something like this. The question comes this: is the soil alive or dead? It's dead. Now, which means there is no life of its own in the land base except superimposed, planted human life of a certain culture. The land base is dead one on its own, and the human life is supported by importing its feed, that is through a kind of lifeline from outside. This is our reality. Whatever land bases we are living in are scenario 1. Let's look at scenario 2. What if you allow a limited number of plants and animals on the land base, additionally douse it with some chemicals, something like this? So is it alive or dead here? Yeah. It's a partially alive, gradually dying out land base, including everyone in and on it. And even more importantly, these are the only 2 scenarios we are allowing on the planet. As we just saw, half of the earth is used for the scenario 2, and the rest is for scenario 1. This is what our objective. And if that is objective,
you are citizens of dead zones. As far as life is concerned. Just one species breeds and multiplies. At the cost of every other species on the planet. Eventually collapsing, taken unawares, having no base of life to support it. Ecosystems are resilient. Therefore, populations don't read the signs of imminent collapse. The signs are everywhere. Stamped on every inch of your world. But populations choose to be blindsided to the signs. And short-sighted to the road ahead. Or the absence of it. Stupefied by their addictives.
prison and palace and reverberation of thunder of spring over distant mountains, he who was living is now dead. We who were living are now dying with a little patience. Here is no water, but only rock. Rock and no water and the sandy road, the road winding above among the mountains, which are mountains of rock without water. If there were water, we should stop and...
Citizens of dead zones. Creating and expanding dead zones. All over the planet body. As well as their own physical, mental, and spiritual bodies.